Live stream. Okay. This meeting is being live streamed.
It
This
is
a meeting.
the meeting of the meeting in the meeting zone.
This is like the pre-meeting meeting, which is the pre-show for the pre-show recording session, because the actual show is the final version, which comes out on YouTube as well.
So this is like the appetizer, main course, pretty much the appetizer before the main course comes out.
So that's confusing. I'm just going to share the link around everybody, and Imogen can't make it to the meteorological report tonight.
Oh, is she going in the haunted house too?
I don't know.
Oh no.
Just doing all the sharing. Share now. And I suppose we could share it on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
So I'll do that.
Maybe
hey,
TikTok. No, it won't work on there. Yeah, can't share.
Hey, Elon Musk, you're a douchebag. I hardly use Twitter anymore.
Well, now
they did.
You have to pay $8 a month, but I was trying to get verified. Now I'm like, oh, I guess I won't get verified now.
We need to be verified for anyways.
I know. Frankie's verified though.
Well, of course he is.
Yeah.
There's only one.
There's only one, Frankie McDonald. That's right. So he might have to pay the $8 a month. Unless he gets a buy or something. I'm not sure how that works. So that's the tweeter. And oh yeah, and then the Ottawa Senators went on sale this week. Or yeah, just thinking about.
Did they?
And wouldn't you know, Ryan Reynolds is thinking about buying the Ottawa Senators.
Why would you buy them?
I don't know. He has a lot of money to watch the sports team, I guess.
I guess so. That's like picking the low-hanging fruit, the Senators.
Oh yeah. Well, that's probably why they're for sale.
Okay, so I got that all out in the Twitter and all that, and I'm not even gonna look at notifications. And hey, Susan Payne, hello from 100 Mile House, she says. So
100 Mile.
We already have people watching, and that's good. So I'm going to set now up some maps, Brandon, and talk about British Columbia. It's really, really crappy here right now, isn't it?
Yep, it is. Some wild weather, and the same storm is going to intensify over Alberta Friday night into Saturday. That's going to cause another round of interesting weather for us. That's for sure.
Here's the graphic forecast area map. What do you see here, Ben? That looks interesting. We got the cold front really slamming down, and we're feeling it in Wells right now. So this is 0 hour. It's already made its way past this for sure, as forecast. It's a little warm front squeezing down here. Heavy precipitation.
Yeah, I've noticed some snow on Vancouver Island. I've seen some videos. I couldn't share them, but because the groups were like privatized, I can't share anything off those groups. But I noticed some snow, especially higher on Vancouver Island already this evening along that cold front as it sags to the south, and that's going to really set the stage for a fairly significant Arctic air mass to move in for next week. Right across much of Western Canada here, we will likely see the coldest air since February moving on down to the south here. So
I'm not on that Vancouver weather group anymore. They would not let me post weather reports or Frankie video reports or things like that, or our show. They removed them, and I thought that was just total nonsense. So I just said, to hell with you then. I wouldn't ever remove their stuff if they put it on our page, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wait, is this the battle of the weather pages? Whatever.
Battle of the weather groups. Now the groups are getting really bad, especially for those fake spam posts too.
Oh, I know.
I bet you probably had a well, luckily you have the ability to kind of go through and filter through. And
well, I have a lot of settings on that keep that out.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it still breaks in a bit. And our moderate, I mean, like, honestly, the amount of moderating I do on interior weather and wilderness watchers is very little, especially the last, since the end of fire season, I've been kind of off my weather game. You may have noticed, like, just my mind's been on kung fu. My mind's been on what to do next in life. My mind's been on getting firewood. My mind's been on just, and I just haven't. And there was that long period of like, well, it's just long, nice fall. There's not really anything to talk about that much.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into our first real snowstorm of the season. It's forcing me to say tower cumulus out by Haida it says. So yeah. Then we see how that's going to slide down through the evening.
Yep. Slide down through the evening and then really affect the mountain passes. I know there's some snowfall warnings out for the Rogers Pass, the Coquihalla, the Okanagan Connector, the Kootenay Pass, and some of the areas will likely exceed that 15 to 25 centimeter range. And then we'll see maybe even higher amounts up your way as well over the next, say, 24 to 48 hours here. Could be.
Well, yes, and you do see in the graphic forecast area the Caribou Mountains and these basically the eastern flanks. They will be getting still a fair bit. So we're looking at 30 centimeters and more here, and I have a feeling that it may continue on and on for a while. But much of the Caribou and Prince George is seeming to escape it as we move into tomorrow. Talking to a cop today who's saying that there's already been fender benders in Quesnel, people sliding around, and and it's always like that first one of the year where people like, what do I do?
Oh yeah, we went through that. Went through that yesterday, and I can tell you it wasn't much the snow. It was just the wet snow that when it wasn't really rain, but it was a wet snow at the beginning and a strong wind and a dropping temperature. So that causes everything to freeze. It's kind of like a flash freeze there yesterday afternoon, and it turned the roads into a sheet of ice. And they're still very icy. They have improved because the sun came out today, but they were like a skating rink out there on the roads. And it was not a pretty drive for anybody yesterday going out in southern Alberta or central Alberta, at least, with the pretty brutal road conditions. Now we're seeing that. So this is occurring at BC as well. I also should mention the significant rain on the coastal section, like Vancouver, probably getting near 70 millimeters of rain, and could be near 100 millimeters of rain in around Tofino in the next 3 days here. So big rains for the BC coast and big snows for the mountains.
Well, we have this snowfall warning. It says 10 to 15 centimeters. We do have, I'm not sure how many people have joined us so far, but we know we have one person from 100 Mile House watching. So this is for you. 10 to 15 centimeters, except 20 centimeters near the Caribou Mountains. I think the language there, you almost have to put bold on it near, because I'm in the Caribou Mountains and I know there's going to be more than 20 centimeters. I'm just certain of that. That's how things work. So near the 20 Caribou Mountains, 20 centimeters. That sounds reasonable. Here in the Caribou Mountains, I think 20 would be on the low scale for us, for sure. And if you get deep in the mountains, I mean, it was already snowing up high before it was snowing down here earlier today. I got a load of firewood and then called it a day. Snow will east flurries on Friday morning, followed by periods of rain or wet snow on Friday afternoon. So it's a different story down in the south, like Brandon was saying. Look at all this. It's like this is the battle board, I call it. It's like this. Just everything's all fucked up and red, and everywhere's got warnings. But here we go, Nicola. Hope to Merritt, Okanagan Connector, Highway 3, Hope to Princeton via Allison Pass. This could go to Friday afternoon, up to 25 centimeters. The atmospheric rivers bringing heavy snow to high elevation mountain passes. Gusty southerly winds this evening will further reduce visibility in blowing snow. Here's the good news. Freezing levels will rise to 2,000 meters Friday afternoon, changing the snow to rain. The precipitation will ease Friday evening. So it's nice to know that there will be a break from the sub-zero weather we've already been having here. That's nice. Prepare for changing and deteriorating travel conditions. Rapidly accumulating snow will make travel difficult.
Oh yes, and I like the wording on the mountain passes. Weather in the mountains can change suddenly, resulting in hazardous driving conditions. So that's the so know before you go. That's the thing they always call out on the. So I like how, yeah, it's kind of weird how they put those two differently, but gotta warn all the truck drivers. I know I saw quite a few truck drivers today. So I got put in a hotel last night because I worked too hard. No, more like the roads were bad, so we decided that would probably be the best thing to do. So we put me in the hotel, and then saw some truck drivers who also decided to call their quits on the driving yesterday and pulled into the hotels here in Brooks and called it a night and waited for the storm to pass by. And they said they even had to call their other friend truck drivers down the road to warn them that the conditions were so bad that they were about to close down the Trans-Canada Highway. So that might be, we'll have to keep an eye on that in the mountain passes as well, especially Rogers Pass and the Kootenay Pass, where we're going to have to watch the avalanche risk in the coming weeks as well. It's going to start to increase.
Here we have the Paulson Summit on Highway 3, and what they're saying there, a long period of snowfall expected, right? So they're expecting to get it, long duration snowfall event expected. They're going to be getting it for much longer than we are here up. At least in intensity, they'll be getting the intensity longer. I think we will be getting snow off and on for the next bunch of days after this until the cold really sets in the Cariboo Mountains. However, this is, I mean, really the bulk of the precipitation is looking like it's going to go to Washington, right? So, when you look at some of the substantial amounts we're getting, just imagine if you were in the real pulse of where that atmospheric river is pointed instead of on the upper flank of it. So yeah, up to 5 centimeters expected by Friday morning. It intensifies on midday Friday. Southwesterly winds gusting to 40 kilometers an hour. Freezing levels will change, so that gives you a mix of rain and snow Friday evening, and then temperatures begin to cool Friday overnight. So that's going to make your roads completely disastrous. Precipitation will revert back to a chance of flurries. And people are traveling on Fridays because they want to go somewhere. It's the weekend. It's like, it's our weekend. We work all week. That's what good robots do. They work all week. Then they have their 2 days to go do whatever they want. And including drive your car off a cliff and some BC highway because the roads are insane and you should not be on them. One of my rules is like, if I can't go a certain speed on the highway and maintain it safely, then I'm like, I shouldn't be on the road. I don't know if that speed is, but it's like a reasonable speed, right? Like if the highway here is 90 and I can't seem to be going like faster than 70 comfortably, why am I on the road then? Is it worth the risk? And that's judgment call people have to make for themselves, I guess. But I mean, for me, I don't think anything's worth that risk, really. It's like people do that all the time. They gotta work. So they go through the worst weather and accept it. Anything in your marks on this jet stream map you got here, Brandon? It's the giant V of misery.
Oh, yeah. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I've also noticed Friday night, there's also a chance of thunderstorms from Kamloops to Revelstoke. And wouldn't be surprised to get some thunder snow out of that Friday night near midnight there. So things are going to get really interesting as the storm intensifies before moving into Alberta. So yes, the big story for the next week or so, right throughout the month of November, is the troughing the jet stream. We've been very lucky for the beginning of through September into October with the upper ridge the dominance and the kind of the depth ridge, they call it, where you have the upper ridge sit right over top of you. Weather has not changed much. Now that it has changed since last week, we're seeing more troughing in the west, ridging in the east. So the eastern half of the country is going to be in for some very warm air as we progress away to the weekend. While here in the west, we've got the troughing in the jet stream, and that is going to allow for a very cold air mass to start to move in. And we've got, with the jet stream pulling to the south, that's going to allow for the storms to progress its way through Washington State, and it also changed the storm track to push into Montana. Usually when you have more of a ridge or your zonal flow, you'll have your storms move right into BC, the north central coast. But this time looks like the main core of the storms moved to the south. And whenever that happens, we got to keep an eye on the Arctic high diving in from the north, which is going to be about 1050. So it is going to be a very deep Arctic high, which will likely be the polar vortex for next week. Yes, I said it, the polar vortex. And you got a low pressure system to the south, and that's going to allow for upsloping enhancement to develop in the next week. So we'll see yet another pretty big snow event here in southern Alberta by next week at least. And this Arctic high is going to be pretty much parked over our area all next week long with brutally cold air mass, even for British Columbia, where we could potentially see, especially even on the coast sections, reach minus teens by next week, and more snowfall events as well. So it is going to be, and daytime highs are going to be below freezing right across British Columbia. Meanwhile, in Alberta, the first minus 30 of the season is very big for next week.
What do you laugh? Minus 30.
You'll probably
Congratulations on getting there first this year once again.
Thanks. Pleasure is ours.
I did notice, after we kind of look at snowfall projections and whatnot over the next bunch of days, we'll rewind this and put it back on the temperature and watch that air mass move in. I noticed last time I looked that we definitely get an island of cold air that the only cold air like it, you have to go quite far north into the east, up into the territories, right? So, north of Churchill and whatnot. So so north of us, on every side of us, there'll be warmer air. It will be caught in the purple, and then the rest of the purple is going to be up here somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's our luck to be right in the pinpoint location for.
There is that Arctic high in Alaska. That's the one where that's going to come and get us.
Here it's starting to develop. Yeah, good call. So it's like coming down somewhere up here is the worst place in the world for weather. If you ask me, that's cold, man.
Oh yeah,
and it's coming in. Look at this low on Sunday still. Lots of the coast is just eating it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we watched a lot of that precipitation has gone into Washington, really, and even Oregon getting some real deep pulses.
High goes at 1049 millibars, and now 1051. Like that is high, pretty much very high pressure.
Your ears will be popping when that comes in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Something that I find, because I live at elevation and I go down to Quesnel and drop 2,500 feet. And sometimes the pressure, a few weeks ago, the high pressure down, and when we went down the valley, it was like so hard on both my son's ears and mine. And he couldn't get his to pop. Mine were popping nicely.
Oh yeah.
Monday, 1 a.m.
Yeah, there it is there. And you see
these nice tight millibars. So lots of precipitation still through the weekend.
Oh yeah. Right through the weekend. Right through. Oh,
you go to work on Monday. Gonna be going to work on Monday morning in Southern BC. We are at a sink here.
Oh
yeah. Going to work on Monday morning in Southern BC, getting just dumped on. But you'll miss it once that high comes in.
Yeah. But Yeah, the troughing and the whole jet stream there is just messed up. Look at that. Oh yeah. There you go. Now you got the trough. And down comes the high to get me all cold and freezing.
And then we have this sort of next wave. You know, it'll take a few days for it to start showing up, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Thursday at this time next week. Low is sitting off the coast. High still inland though, but that'll start to change the story for us here a bit. Oh, that looks like relief. Let's go back to that temperature map.
Yeah.
We won't have to go all the way back because we don't need to. There we go. Sunday, 9 a.m. Starting to see where some of that cold is.
Yep, there it is to the north. Woo! Ice. Cold as ice. That's what that looks like. Yeah, and even see that cooler air mass working its way out in the Pacific Ocean as well. See those temperatures fall like single digits, but
it loves to just sink into the Chilcotin first, eh?
Oh yeah.
I certainly noticed that working out there last winter. How it just had its own thing going on. On Monday, 9 a.m., we're going to start feeling pretty cold here, but luckily the daytime will back that off a little bit. To a pleasant minus 13 in Quesnel.
Oh, yeah. That'll be fun.
Not enjoying that so much. Blue River just a little too close to the mountains. But yeah, really sticking to the Rockies there.
Yep. But I do believe Arctic outflow will be a concern on the coast there, where we will have those wind chills feeling like into the minus 20s. So that will be uncomfortable, to say the least.
Yeah, especially there. It's nicer to see what I'm talking about as we get later in the week. It's like its own air mass, separate from everywhere else is nicer. But just look at that, southern BC and southern Alberta. And then, yeah, you go way up to, wherever the hell this is, Misery Land. To find it again. We really luck out with
oh yeah,
the bragging rights to the first real cold snap of the year. When everyone else in Canada is like, oh, it's awful weather today. And we'll be like,
that's right. Well, yeah, it's been
it's always better when it's better when it's snowing.
Oh yeah. We've been
it's almost Frankie time.
Almost Frankie time, that's right. Yeah, I can't believe how far down that pressure is going to go down to 975 millibars in Saskatchewan on Saturday. Good. Almost bomb cyclone. Just a couple it has to be 24 millibars in 24 hours. And that drops from, let's see here. So 986 back. Not quite 24 millibars. 10 millibars, I guess. Drop a little more. That's a pretty good drop there.
Susan Payne is asking, with such a late fall weather, will this extend winter or shorten it?
It's like with La Nina, I think it's going to extend it. Yeah. Last year, I say, 2 years ago, if I look back correctly here, we were breaking daily high temperature records here at 25 degrees 2 years ago today.
We got the cast showing up. Brian and Frankie. That's great. I'm going to hit record, and it's 7 o'clock. It's showtime. Everyone's so punctual. Good morning, Prince George, and good afternoon, Winnipeg. This is the Meteorological Report. Comedy and meteorology equals meteorology. I'm your host, Joey Only, here in snowy Wells, British Columbia, up in the mountains at 4,000 feet, 53 degrees north. Yep, and we're getting some wonderful weather right now, I'm telling you. Yes, we are joined by the panel of meteorologists, as always, Frankie McDonald, the star of the show, and we got Brandon Hauk back from his haunted house adventure last week. He's also had to stay in a hotel since then. Just haunted houses, hotels, the whole works for Brandon Hauk. And we got Brian Schmidt coming on from Portland Weather Uncensored, which is really good because I know some of this awful weather is going to be reaching down to his direction too. So love to get his take. Brandon and I were just talking in the pre-show weather report that all the way down in Washington and Oregon, they're going to be seeing the bulk of this atmospheric river. So whatever we're getting in BC isn't the full story. Welcome to the show, Frankie McDonald. This is the Meteorological Report on CFR 88.7 FM, CKUW 95.9 FM. How you doing this week?
I'm doing great so far. Dallas got severe weather outbreak coming tomorrow on Friday, November 4th. It's going to bring tornado outbreak with chain lightning very loud there. It's going to bring heavy downpours, large hail. There's going to be a lot of flood and damaging winds. That's going to knock out power Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, around the areas. That's going to be one of the worst weather in North America, in the world tomorrow. And Belize just got hit by Hurricane Lisa, did to lots of damage there. Belize just got hit by Hurricane Lisa. That's south of Mexico.
Yes. Hurricane Lisa.
And Hurricane Michael's is out to sea. Hurricane Michael's far out to sea right now, bringing high winds and heavy rain, bringing so much big waves in the middle Atlantic Oceans, affecting container ships, shipping addresses in offshore oil rigs and things like this. Is really, really bad right now. And Europe is going to get a windstorm soon. It's going to head towards Europe. That's going to bring a major windstorm in England and all these places, including Norway, Finland, Sweden, and all these places are going to bring a major windstorms. And California is going to get warmer in the coastal areas of California. And Vancouver's getting odd weather. Lately, a lot of rain in Vancouver. Then it got supported in really strong winds in Ontario, coming all the way from Dallas, Texas.
The show is recorded on the 3rd of November. You'll be hearing us on the 5th in Prince George, and you'll be hearing us on the 7th in Winnipeg. So just keep that in mind as you're hearing us talk about weather, that it's not today's weather for you if you're a radio listener. If you want to ever see the show live on the YouTube, we broadcast live on my channel, Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude, every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Well, we start usually before that on the live stream, and then we make the final version of the show, which will be available on my channel tomorrow. So do help me out, subscribe to Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude. Hey, Frankie, how's your channel doing this week?
I'm doing great so far. Did you hear about that? And what about in Russia? It's getting really, really bad out there in Russia.
Yeah, what's the weather like in Russia this week?
Getting extremely cold there right now, but Russia's closed.
I hope it gets even colder.
What happens if somebody calls the CIA? What does that mean? How much trouble they be in?
Well, it depends if they're calling them for a good reason or not, right? If they're like calling the CIA and like, hey, so where's the best pizza in town? They're probably going to be in a lot of trouble, Frankie. Probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Where's the coldest place in the world right now, Frankie?
Somewhere in Russia, in Antarctica. Yeah. What happens if somebody calls the FSB Russia?
They'll probably say, they'll probably ask you for government secrets that you know or something. I don't know.
How much trouble they be in?
Depends why you're calling. If you're calling, you're like, hey, I want to work for the Russians. You know, you might be in trouble with Canada and not Russia. You know, you might be in trouble with the CIA and not in trouble with Russia. So I want to say hi to Brian because he's in this week, and we'll go to Brandon in a second. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Any questions for Frankie? How's your week? How's the weather?
Well, it's been getting pretty rainy here this week. We had about maybe like 9 centimeters of rain the last 10 days of October, and then we're supposed to get 25 to 30 centimeters of rain in the Oregon Cascades coming up next 48 hours. So some of that moisture is going to overrun into Canada as snow probably. Right?
Yeah.
Hasn't there been a lot of cold air
right now.
Crap there? There's going to be overrunning snow event possibly.
So we'll come back and I want to go deeper in that story with you, but I also didn't want to have you come on and not after being like, Brian, join us, and not say, hi, Brian. You got any questions for Frankie, Brian?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing great so far. Dallas is getting severe weather outbreak tomorrow.
I was watching that. I was watching the Ryan Hall Y'all. I'm sure you guys watch that, right? Is that a very common black weather YouTube channel? Do you watch that, Brendan?
Yeah, I've seen him. He was actually on James Van Weatherbrains a couple of weeks ago there. So yeah, it's pretty popular YouTube channel, that's for sure.
He's high energy. He keeps it interesting.
Oh yeah.
I just got a message from Pete, and it's cold and snowy in Denver.
What's the weather like in Sydney, Nova Scotia right now, though? It looks like you're wearing a pretty big hat there.
It's cold outside in Sydney, Nova Scotia. It's snowing in Denver, according to Pete.
It's snowing right here in Wells. It's snowing.
Pete sent me a message to bring the snow in Denver.
We got snowfall warnings in effect all across British Columbia. In the pre-show, Brandon and I were talking about all the details on that, and we will talk about that some more. What videos did you make this week, Frank? How's your channel doing?
Doing great so far. I just did a severe thunderstorms to hit Dallas, Texas for tomorrow. It's on my YouTube channel.
What else did you do?
That means I did a forecast for Belize to the other side of the world.
Right. How many subscribers are you up to this week, Frankie?
I'm getting more subscribers. 281,000 subscribers on my channel.
281,000 subscribers.
Frankie,
that's awesome. So make sure if you haven't done that before, go subscribe, join, do what everyone else has done. Just join the Frankie McDonald. Go to Frankie McDonald's YouTube channel, Dogs and Wolves, and subscribe because he's awesome. He's Frankie. He's here with us right now. We're so lucky to always have him. Brandon Houck, you had to stay in a hotel this week. So you've been in haunted houses. Talk to us about the haunted house. Talk to us about the hotel, the haunted hotel.
Yeah, so we had so I wasn't here last Thursday because of a Halloween haunting I was part of. We got told to join in and get scared, I guess. They really wanted to scare me, but didn't. I could say I kind of snuck in at the back and let everyone else ahead of me get scared. And there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of shouting, and it was not coming from me. So that was a good thing. But I did have somebody, it was kind of more like, we have our Brooks Museum here, and it's like it's like more than one haunted house. It's like there's a haunted school building, and we go through the haunted barn, and then we go into the library. It's all like a kind of like Heritage Park where you get to go look through all different types of buildings of a community there. So they put it together really well there, and acting as well was absolutely incredible. So it's like you're in a movie or something, and they're taking you through all these different buildings and going through them all, and it was pretty incredible. And then as I said, I was in the back, so I had one guy grab my shoulder, and I jumped there. He was a creepy guy. He grabbed my shoulder, and a couple zombies came out of the woods, and man, clowns. One clown was sitting on the side of the road just staring at us and following us. They were all following us through these buildings and stuff, trying to creep us all out. And then the one building, the one clown, he was hiding underneath the desk or under the desk there. So I could see him from the other side, but the people in front of me did not see him under the desk. And I saw his hand reach out, grab the girl up front, and holy moly, she screamed for
Clowns grabbing girls. I would scream too.
So then there's this coffin right here, right beside me, and there's a cover right over.
What's going on in Russia? In Russia, people can't speak against the government.
So the coffin.
So yeah, there's the coffin right there, and I'm pretty skeptical going through these buildings. So I see a coffin, and I am not going anywhere near the coffin. I'm standing far away from that coffin because I have a feeling there's somebody hiding underneath that cover, ready to jump out from the coffin there. And lo and behold, the guy jumps out of the back of the coffin, and I think everyone but me yelled and screamed like, I told you not to go near the coffin there. But so yeah, it was a great story. And then the best part was the wind. We had Chinook winds. We had winds gusting about 70 to 80 kilometers an hour. So we're out there, the wind is just howling, and all these old buildings, they were creaking, they were rattling, so it made it even better, like even scarier, at least with the especially in the barn. When we went into the barn and you had all these chains kind of hanging around there, and you hear the guys stomping downstairs and the whole building's creaking and stuff. It was, yeah, that was the haunted experience. And those clowns, yeah, they still followed us right till the end there.
I tell you, with the years and years of effort I've put into becoming heavy with my Wing Chun Kung Fu, the clown that touches me, it might be the last thing you ever do.
Yeah, so
clown grabs me, you really regret that.
That's right. Yeah,
it's so hard for me. Sometimes it's really hard for me to not, because I'm trying to be radio friendly, to actually say things the way I actually would. Imogen struggles with this way more. Like, I can get into radio personality and not swear, but sometimes like the Joey wants to come out and just say things the way I would, and it would be so much funnier if I could.
Yeah.
So you got the haunted house, and then you had to stay in a hotel because it was bad weather.
Yeah, we had it. Well, the night of the haunted house was really nice weather. 8 degrees outside. It was like perfect for dark out. 8 degrees, windy, Chinook winds, and we saw those Chinook conditions persist right through the weekend. They're absolutely gorgeous, and Halloween was actually pretty nice as well. And then November came, and the weather turned like a dime. With our first, we had low pressure in Montana develop. It spread in our first little bit of wet snow on the first there in the afternoon. The second push of snow, that is what got us pretty good yesterday, with 15 to 25 centimeters of snow and blowing snow, winds gusting 60 kilometers an hour, and you have wet roads with winds gusting 60 kilometers an hour, temperature falling dramatically down to -6 in the afternoon, and that's just ice.
And they canceled the school buses in the afternoon.
That's right. So they
the
all
short-sighted buggers
in the morning, and they canceled the buses in the afternoon, so the parents had to go in and pick up the kids.
So now instead of having 12 vehicles on the road, now you have 200 extra vehicles on the road for safety.
That's right. That's right. And hopefully they change that up a little bit, as in, if they know there's a storm coming, maybe cancel the buses or send them home early. Might be a good idea.
Okay. And I was saying to Brandon, when I was in public school, we had it several times where ice storms and bad weather came to central Ontario, and we went home at lunchtime. The buses returned, and we went before the storm got here. So I want to, in a minute, talk to you about the forecast going forward, but I think now is a good time to sort of go down to Brian Schmidt and ask him what the last week has been like in Portland, as we're getting now into this crappier weather. And of course, you stand the risk of landslides and things like that, I'm sure, and flooding.
Yeah, well, luckily we haven't had much precipitation. Halloween here was very heavy rain during the time of trick-or-treating. Halloween evening, I've never had this happen. I contracted COVID. So now I'm going through it for the first time in my life. I'm getting a little better. It's been about 3 days. But the weather has been pretty seasonal the last few days. It's supposed to warm up to 16 degrees Celsius tomorrow evening with a strong southerly wind, up around 70 kilometers an hour, and then get about, like I said, up to 30 centimeters of rain in the mountains, 10 to 15 at sea level. So it's a typical, rainy season event coming.
And we'll dive into that more, because following,
what's up? Somebody saying hi to me, Joey.
Well, here we go. Who's there, Frankie? Show us. Are they gone? Or were they just driving by and yelling?
They just driving by me. They say hi to me.
Awesome. Okay. We got to
Frankie,
get closer to the door of A&W so that there's a better chance people will come out and be closer to you and be like, Frankie, and then we can have them on the show.
Total solar eclipse is taking place in Sydney, Nova Scotia on Monday, April 8th, 2024.
my daughter's 8th birthday.
Here come Brian. You're coming down to Sydney, Nova Scotia that day.
With his daughter.
From where I live, the closest would be like Missouri or like Eastern Oklahoma. But
Brian, you're coming to Sydney on Monday, April 8th, 2024. Joe, you're coming to Sydney. Joe Stover's coming to Sydney.
I'm going to do it if I have to, like, literally roll on my body down. If all my arms and legs fall off, I'm going to roll down the Trans-Canada, and I'm going to get there.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got into the full totality of the 2017 one that happened just south of Portland, and it was a life-changing event. It really was. So I found a spot in the Oregon Cascades on a logging road where there was no traffic, and it got totally dark. It was so amazing. So it was about 33 degrees Celsius and clear that day in Portland. You couldn't have asked for better conditions for a total eclipse at 10:30 in the morning.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen the Cape Breton Highlands where Frankie lives, but not far from where Frankie lives is a national.
I've been there in 2018.
A national park. Have you been there, Frankie?
I was there.
Have you been to Cape Breton Highlands, Frankie?
Yes, I was in Cape Breton Highlands before when I was young.
So it's this beautiful, nationally celebrated place, right, Brian? It's right along the ocean, the Highlands, and there's not much for trees there. And you can get up very high, and it would be the perfect place. And it may be a lot asking you to say, bring your daughter for her 8th birthday to Sydney, Nova Scotia with us, but I'm going to go there. I'm going to be at Sydney. I don't care if I have to
who else is going to be there? Brandon's going to be there. Imogen's going to be there. Who else is going to be there? Joe Stover, Compound Media, Base Guy Show, Jason Marshall, Trey Cable, Roger the Wild Child Show, and all those guys.
Joe Biden even.
How many kilometers is it? If you drove, are you going to drive? Wouldn't that be something?
Well, I've driven across Canada like 30 times.
Is that right?
But so I'll probably like fly to Halifax and then catch a connector over to Sydney, and then there we'll have to rent a car or something like that, or possibly steal one, depending, for the morning of the eclipse, and go up to the Cape Breton Highlands. It's just a couple hours to get to the best places. I'd never been there. I've played gigs in Halifax, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick. I've played shows with my band out that way in the Maritimes 6, 7, 8 different times, but never made my way out to Cape Breton.
Met me in person again tonight.
Where do you have to get on the plane? You don't have to drive all the way to Vancouver, do you? Or do you take a small plane out of like Canal or?
It's pretty expensive to do that, but if I go up to Prince George, there's WestJet up there and other mainline. Because what you got here in Quesnel is just sort of like a coastal mountain air. They got the Dash 7s, de Havilland kind of turboprop planes, right? And they don't run regularly, and then it's expensive, or it's even the smaller ones than that. So I think like a return. I was just looking because someone was offering me a job, and the cheapest I could get was like $600 and something return. And eventually he found someone. I said, you might as well just get someone closer, man. But there's a buddy who builds houses whose main guy got injured, and he said, Joey, I'll pay you $500 a day if you can get down here. I'll fly you down. So I almost did that a few weeks ago.
Wow. So just how low has it gotten so far? About -10 in Wells this winter?
Yeah, that's about where we've been at, but that'll feel like pleasant weather pretty soon, because we got this extreme mass of air that's going to develop coming out of Alaska initially. This high pressure bulb that Brandon and I were looking at earlier in the pre-show, and it's going to bring us. Brandon might get the first -30 weather of the year. Let's talk about the forecast coming then, Brandon, for Winnipeg, for you, and for the West Coast. What do you got this week?
Yeah, so after the that wild little snowstorm swept through the prairies here yesterday, that's gone now. We've got as I mentioned, another storm moving on to the coast sections of BC today, and that's producing heavy snow through the BC interior and through the mountains at least. And this is going to produce a brand new storm on Friday. Actually, yeah, it should start off in the Burns Lake area. Low pressure will move in through Williams Lake on Friday evening. And we might have enough mild air kind of mixing in here for maybe some thunderstorms in the BC interior Friday night. So that will be a lot of fun. And then this low pressure system is going to intensify Friday night into Saturday. It's going to drop to 977 millibars, which is quite low, and it's going to pack a bit of a punch. We could get wind gusts off the southern foothills of 120 kilometers an hour early Saturday morning, and then we'll see those winds we'll see it kind of push a more warm air early Saturday, maybe some thunder showers. So it's going to be very weird Friday night to Saturday here. And so we'll see temperatures rise up above the melting point for a brief time. And then the cold front comes through Saturday afternoon, and it drops the temperature like a rock once again. So we'll see temperatures fall, and we'll get another blast of snow, probably about 2 to 4 centimeters of snow with this one, compared to the 15 to 20 we just had recently. But the winds are going to gust 60 to 70 kilometers an hour on the backside of the low as it pulls away. And that will produce, once again, another round of blowing snow, drifting snow across the prairies. Saskatchewan's going to get it, and Manitoba's also going to get some snow showers with this fairly potent low as it moves its way through. And then as we go into next week here, we've got another storm system coming in. This one is going to be moving into Montana on Monday, and with the Arctic high diving in from the north, which is going to be 1050 millibars. And it's going to be a very deep Arctic high. Low pressure to the south. You get the winds coming up out of the east, retrograding around both the high and the low, and that will produce a textbook upsloping event into Monday across southern Alberta. And the storm system will push through Saskatchewan with yet another 10 to 20 centimeters of snow Monday into Tuesday. As that storm system pulls its way out, Arctic high moves in, and temperatures remain very cold all next week. Actually, we start getting cold Sunday, and we stay cold all next week. Temperatures, daytime highs only in the minus teens is the best we'll do. Overnight lows well in the minus 20s, and especially Wednesday night and Thursday morning, we may see some minus 30-degree temperatures across the province of Alberta here. Wind chills pushing low to mid minus 30s, with another storm system moving into southern Alberta and Saskatchewan Wednesday into Thursday next week. That's going to be heavy snow, strong winds into southern Saskatchewan. So that could pretty much produce blowing snow once again with a significant amount of snow. And then we'll have to watch for ice pellets, freezing rain back to Manitoba Thursday into Friday next week. It should stay as rain for the western side as you tap in some milder air for a brief time, but then your temperatures crash and burn by the end of next week as well in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, with temperatures falling back to the minus teens. So yes, winter is officially here, and it is here to stay. And British Columbia is also going to be impacted drastically by this very cold air mass as well. Going to have to watch for that Arctic outflow to feel like minus 20 next week on the coast. And into the interior sections, many daytime highs are going to struggle to get above the melting point, especially even in the lower valleys. Higher elevations, you're going to see at least minus teens to minus 20s for the next week here.
Yeah, so, and Brand, when we were looking at the maps earlier in the pre-show, Brandon and I were noticing that it's like an island of cold that's sitting over BC, southern BC and southern Alberta. Every direction outside of that, it'll be somewhat warmer. We're really going to get, and I guess that's why you call it a polar vortex as well, right, Brandon?
Yeah, it is the piece of the polar vortex coming in from, well, actually, this one with the way it's coming in looks like from Alaska there. So this is a Siberian high. So this is more of Siberian air mass coming in out of Russia, actually. So not quite the poles, I guess, but more of a Siberian Arctic air mass that is moving in for the next week here.
Do you think the Russians are sending us their cold weather on purpose?
Probably.
So, Frankie, what's the weather next week looking like for Sydney?
It's gonna get a cold front going through Sydney on Monday, and Monday night it's gonna turn colder. Tuesday it's gonna be colder weather once again in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Since a cold front, then it got another storm system heading for Wisconsin on Remembrance Day, Canada, Veterans Day in the States.
Oh yeah, and there'll have some thunderstorms, of course, as well, on the south end of that, won't it?
This is the secondary peak of the tornado season in Texas.
Yeah, Brian. So when this cold front comes in, you're going to be seeing a lot of the rain that you're getting right now change to snow. What are people in Oregon saying about the coming week?
Well, actually, down in the lowlands where everybody lives, it'll be a cold rain. Some models earlier calling for, several centimeters of snow, but reality is it's very difficult to get so close to the Pacific Ocean and this early in the season. So I think the earliest significant snowfall in Portland is actually November 11th, 1955. So for something like that to happen this week would be historical. Much like we had the latest snow ever on April 12th last year. That was the latest snow in history. It would be really something to pull off both those records. I just don't see it happening, but I guess that's an outside chance. We could see a small accumulation, beginning of next week, maybe a centimeter or something like that. But yeah, it's early. It must be a little early for the southern parts of Canada to see such strong cold this early.
Strong cold, yeah. I mean, I'd say this early, yeah. But I mean, I can think of past times where it wasn't much later than this.
I had a message from Jason Marshall, and his show is canceled tonight because of the legal issues on Jason Marshall's side. We don't have cookies, podcast guy.
Does he have cookies yet?
We don't have cookies. That's the name of his podcast. He's coming to Sydney, Nova Scotia on Monday, April 8th, 2024 for Total Solar Eclipse.
Why doesn't he have, he's got legal. Tell him to come on the show. Let's find out what's going on with his legal. Tell Jason, send him the link. Say, Jason Marshall, you come on show now.
He got legal issues. He doesn't want to be telling anybody. He keeps it confidential.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Tell us about
our viewers. No one listens to our show.
Not too many people listen to Jason the Show Wider and Roger the Wild Child Show and Trey Campbell podcast and Base Guy Show, all those podcast guys, because too many clowns and trolls around the world.
That's very true, Frankie.
They're more interested in fast entertainment these days. Every single country on the planet.
You know what the thing is, Frankie? When you're making media, it's like I don't create things because I think it'll make me famous or something like that. I mean, that certainly happened for you, and definitely Brandon and I have a level of infamy that people know who we are outside of, as we go and do things in the world. So, but I don't think that infamy was ever my point. It's like I create just to create. So the point is, sometimes our band, I was saying a few weeks ago, we come to a show and we just had a good run of really good shows, and then suddenly you get to a Tuesday night and the place has only got 20 people in it, and they're not really paying attention. It's really easy to give up on that show. It's easy to be in a bad mood about it, but instead we work twice as hard to get the bar into it and win them over. And because my idea was you play for who shows up and you don't worry about who doesn't come, right? So if you only have a few people show up, well, if you can do something meaningful for them, that's great. Well, our radio listeners, luckily, especially for those of who work in businesses that have the radio tuned to that station and they have no choice but to listen to whatever the radio station's playing, welcome to the show. You're listening to us on CFR 88.7 FM, CKUW 95.9 FM. For those of you who...
the world has changed because too many clowns and trolls, they are more interested in fast entertainment, like 10 to 30 second entertainment.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And that's why I'm not a fan of the TikTok craze, Frankie. Every time someone says you should get involved in TikTok, you like to make videos. And I just find, like, if you look at the content I'm producing, it's stuff that has some substance to it. And so I spoke with a Wing Chun Kung Fu master in Hong Kong for over 3 hours. And I've put all those videos up on my channel now. And what we're talking about is substance. you know, how to transcend the human condition and things like that. And it's like, you can't talk about that stuff in 30 seconds. It's not how it works. You can't get wisdom in 30 seconds. And that's why there's a lot of university students who are listening to these shows, because these are being broadcast in universities. Hello to you, meteorology students in Winnipeg. You are very important. You are the ones that make weather happen. Without us, there is no weather, is there? It's like, does a tree fall in the forest? Does anyone hear it? If the weatherman doesn't say it's coming, because people blame you for do people ever blame you for the weather, Brandon? Frankie, they're like, hey, don't say that.
That means that a lot of people are lying.
Like, they're like, you're like, it's gonna snow. They're like, don't say that. It's like, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah, I get blamed all the time for the weather that happens. Today was funny though. I was in the restaurant there earlier today, and I was sitting beside these truckers here, and they're having a conversation. They're deep into the conversations and stuff, and talking about the road conditions yesterday. And I like to kind of tune in to see what they're talking about and stuff. And all of a sudden, the guy.
There's no commercials in their conversation.
No commercials in their conversations. That's for sure.
Tune in.
So the truckers here, they started talking. One guy started talking about, oh yes, I was listening to the local radio today, and the weather guy there, he said something about getting up to 4 degrees tomorrow, and I'm sitting there, I'm just grinning ear to ear. I didn't go bother them or anything. It just felt good. And then as I walked down to the end there, I had a pile of people who knew who I was. Obviously, they were sitting in a group over there in the corner there. And so I walk up, and the one guy gets up and says, "Hey, Brandon." And I'm like, "Yo." And he's like, "Fix this weather, would ya?" I was like, "Sure, I'm gonna make it colder." And I laugh as I walk out of the restaurant. That's
the simplicity of people, because they can't comprehend that you just happen to know things that they don't know, because they haven't tried to find knowledge or foster it within themselves. So when someone has knowledge, they're like, well, that's impossible. You can't know that.
Yeah.
It's his fault the weather's happening. He's just guessing. His pessimism. It's lack of positive thinking, isn't it, Brian? So Portland Weather Uncensored, your Facebook group you run, I'm just guessing that in the last couple weeks since we talked to you, there's been some funny things that have gone on in your group. I'd love to hear you elaborate a little bit on that.
Oh, most definitely. So we have about 3,500 members, but there's a large group of regulars that are daily. But we have the GFS model and the Euro model, and the Canadian, those models. The GFS, the United States version is very suspect with its output and temperatures. And a lot of times it'll overdo the forecast of cold temperatures in this area. So we post those maps to make people, wish cast. They rarely come to fruition. Just like last week, it was, even tonight it'll say it'll be getting below freezing, but in reality, it'll be closer to maybe like 2 Celsius or something, because we're close to the ocean.
Well, what if you wish casted and you said, you know what, everybody, and your next post you're like, it's going to be 20 Celsius tomorrow, or it's going to be 70 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow, or 25.
Where's guys like Gabriel?
I don't know. So you tell everybody you wish cast it, because they want to hear something positive on the radio. They want to hear something positive on your Facebook weather group that you run. They want to hear something positive on our show. So what they'll tell them. Okay, everybody in Prince George, the weather is going to be 25 degrees Celsius tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. There's no cold front coming. That's just a bunch of hogwash. Well, what happens if I say that? And they're like, well, the weatherman's always wrong. You can't listen to anything he says. Am I breaking through here with that?
10-4, buddy. So now, Frankie, I have a question for you. Are you there?
Yes, okay. I hear.
Which video of yours has the most views on YouTube?
Guy tries to eat 50 hot dogs at once.
That's right. How many people?
1.8 million views.
Ding ding. Okay, that was amazing.
That was actually 3 questions, Brian.
It's 3 parts.
1.8 million views.
It's
Guy tries to eat 50 hot dogs.
was busy working.
Okay. Okay, Frankie, one more. What's the second most watched video?
A guy dancing then being chased by gorilla. Uploaded in July 2016. It has over 1 million views total.
How many 1 million views videos have you published on your site?
2 so far.
Did that get you a special award from YouTube?
I just did a New Zealand earthquake prediction video in 2016. Gained a lot of subscribers for that. And once I reached 100,000 subscribers, I got my YouTube Silver Play Button award.
Very good.
Long before all these YouTube weathermen were out there trying to make a name for ourselves in the world of weather, Frankie was already killing it by predicting earthquakes and hurricanes and volcanoes.
My most viewed weather report ever on my YouTube channel is the most viewed weather report ever on my YouTube channel is major storm that hit South Dakota on Friday, October 4th, 2013. It has 616,000 views.
That's a lot of views, Frankie.
That's
a lot of people. A lot of people who you helped instill the knowledge in them to be prepared.
My most viewed earthquake prediction is massive earthquake to hit New Zealand anytime soon, 2016.
And you think of all the people who've been told by Frankie to be prepared. I bet you saved lives, Frankie. And you don't even know it because those are people who decide, you know what, Frankie said be prepared. Or there were people who said, you know what, Frankie's weather video said it's going to be really bad snowstorm. Let's not go on that trip this weekend. You probably saved someone's life.
I have a lot of views on my YouTube videos for my weather report stats and videos and my comedy videos. That's before TikTok.
So when the weatherman saves someone's life, what happens is nothing happens and he gets no recognition for it because the person whose life was saved is at home sitting by their fire saying, good thing I didn't go driving today, because they were scheduled by Death Almighty to be vanquished from the earth. But instead, they were prepared and decided, whatever, they made that choice. So that's something about the weatherman. Whenever you have really great success, you don't get much credit for it. You don't see the results of all the good things you do, of all the dead bodies that aren't piled up because you didn't say anything.
All the TV news stations around the world, they're more interested in bad news than good news in every single country on the planet, even Antarctica, even up in space.
Is there bad news in space?
Yes, it could be astronauts, could be chance of getting a fight because Russian astronauts are up in the International Space Station still.
I don't think the astronauts are going to fight each other.
What happens if they do fight each other up in space?
Well, it'd be pretty fun floating around in a zero gravity environment. I'd be interested as a Wing Chun student in engaging in combat in zero gravity. I think I could do okay. But yeah. You know, the thing about astronauts, Frankie, is they're extremely intelligent people. They're intellectuals. Most of them are operating at a higher level than what government propaganda is capable of breaking through on. I mean, these aren't people who are going to look at an astronaut from another country and be like, think that whatever's going on down on the earth below them matters, because they can see out to space and they can see all of humanity out their window, and they know how small and precious life is on earth and how vast the universe is, full of darkness, with no life and no chance of survival, no chance of a sunny day sitting on a porch. You can't just go to Mars and make what we have here. It's not like that. We got this special Earth, and astronauts, they're the ones who go up into space and see that. The ones who get to go to the moon and look back and see the Earth as a whole, they get to witness something larger than themselves. Does that make sense to anybody? Oh, astronauts aren't going to fight the astronauts?
No, they'll probably get along. They'll probably order pizza up there. I think that's what they did in 2006, yes. Big pizza delivery from Pizza Hut. And they got a pizza all the way up to the International Space Station. It probably was cold pizza, by the way.
So what's the big political news in the United States right now, Brian? Because basically, I don't think anything interesting's happened
I
in
heard
Canada
Republicans are
forever.
leading in the polls right now.
Oh, they
Oh
are.
God.
Well, in Oregon, it's a couple of blue and one red. They're all women. There's only women governors in Oregon. You know, the last governor has been the governor for 8 years. It seems to be a new thing across the United States. A lot more. And remember when I was young, it was all men. Definitely more equality these days in the political field like that. You know. So, anyways, I don't know. The other day I was pissed because I was taking a nap. I was sick, and they knocked on my door, and they, of course, they left a note on my door. Vote for this person. You know. So there's so much stuff, and I'm sure you guys get tons of stuff in the mail.
Not really, but can you imagine if you died of COVID, and it's like that was your last human contact with anybody on Earth? Someone knocked on your door to
Well,
say vote Republican.
It's really not that bad. It's just a sore throat, and as long as you're not throwing up or crapping your pants, I think it's acceptable to be kind of sick. I'm not having that happen. It's COVID. I've had 4 shots, so I should have some immunity built up over the last couple of years. So I haven't had any alcohol for over a month. I know that you've gone a long time, but I just did that because I didn't want to get fat for winter.
Well, you look good. You sound all right. I mean, when I had COVID last time, I think we had to cancel an episode because I was dysfunctional.
You're a horse. I know. Well, I drank a large glass of water just now, and that helped. But yeah, I've had the deep, like raspy voice. And then one of my kids is home from school. My wife, they were going to fly to California to cancel because they got sick. So yeah, it is what it is. It's wintertime. That's the beauty of living in Canada. You have a lower population, but still being stuck indoors this time of year, November, December, that's the time where it happens.
Well, and I was so sick I was like delusional. There was like,
I
green
remember.
heads floating around telling me I was gonna die, whatever.
I remember you were hospital hopping and you were posting on Facebook the updates, and it was upsetting to read. You were really in a bad place.
My lungs were very inflamed. I couldn't get a
Yeah.
full breath in.
Now
It was like
see,
cop D almost, or cop
when,
D.
when you came down with the COVID, were you actively smoking cigarettes?
Wow, I'm a hillbilly.
Okay.
And
Well, so
about that,
luckily,
2 years ago, they had to close all the international borders because of that situation in 2020.
yeah, that's probably what saved me. I quit a year ago, so I'm getting this COVID thing when I'm not smoking anymore.
I
So
don't smoke that much tobacco, to be honest. Though it's there's a lot of. I guess it's legal now, so I can actually talk about it on the air. There's a time where we pretend that we were just normal people like you out there in the audience who probably do the same things we do too, right? So yeah, this is a true story. Want to hear a true story? You were looking at one of the few humans in North America who's given a bear COVID. Oh, true story. You want to know? So if you recall, I was timber cruising last winter into the spring. It was COVID actually kind of ended work for me because I couldn't function for like 6 weeks. But I didn't know I had COVID yet, and there I was out in the wilderness, out in the bush, walking around, and I seen that a bear had just woken up. There's tracks all around, but no big deal. And they wake up in the spring. No, they weren't big tracks or nothing to be too alarmed about. And but something was going on in my stomach that day. It was gurgling and because I guess sometimes, and for me, the first symptom I had of COVID was massive diarrhea. So there I was out in the forest. So what do? But you take off your field vest and everything, and you make use of the snow to wipe, and you leave a pile of. It was quite an exceptional pile. It wasn't much solid to it. So, anyways, there's details for you. The next day, because I actually went back to work the next day feeling even worse, because I think my coworker had it too. So it was the two of us going out there, and I find the bear had been back around. I followed its tracks, and it actually went and licked up because it was hungry in the spring. Licked up my my leavings. So, and then I tested for COVID a couple days later and realized I probably gave a bear COVID. I don't know if anyone else can make that claim to fame.
Well, didn't they say it came from reptiles, from like these wet markets? What's the theory on how it started?
It's like pangolins, bats.
Well, for bears at least, like they're saying like how it started for us is one day I was looking up a human's poop.
They got wild animals. People eat those wild animals over in China. Their culture's way different.
Hey, boo-boo.
There is some of that. I think some of the leading theories were that it was came from bats that I recall, and that most of the evidence I've seen seems to point towards. And that other COVID type diseases, you know, such as SARS, that have come out were from bats as well. So I mean, that's the best, and that was something being sold in the black market there. So in the wet market.
Yeah, I've been to Wuhan, China, years ago. It's a very dirty place. Oh yes.
I don't know if we want to put that on the air.
Probably not.
I might edit that. It just
and China people can't speak against the government too.
It just doesn't sound very nice.
The coldest place in Canada is on Ellesmere Island.
Soon it will be here. Yeah. So where do we go? Look at right now. Cold spot minus 33.3 Eureka Nunavut. So yes, there you go.
The furthest
it's always the coldest, and it's got the best name for being cold, Eureka. And it's like every time you see that, it's like Eureka, it's cold.
You know, actually, Alert is the furthest north station at 82.4 north, which is north of Eureka, and that's the only station on Earth north of Eureka.
That's Canadian Forces Base up there, CFP Alert, or CFS Alert. It's called Canadian Forces Station.
So it's only 430 miles from the North Pole.
And during the Cold War, fighter jets would scramble from there to intercept possible Russian bombers flying over the cap, defend Canadian airspace, right? And those are old school aircraft in comparison to the modern, well, the fourth generation CF-18 Hornets we're still flying up here, right? And so again, so imagine that back in the 50s, you're flying in some Avro 100 Canuck, or you're flying in around say in the 60s in like some big Voodoo or CF-104 Starfighter, and then you're way up there in the Arctic and something goes wrong and you crash, and like you're in a bad place. No one's coming. Like it wasn't like today, the way that you could just, and especially in the early explorers who the bush pilots in the 20s and 30s and 40s, man, like those were brave people flying vast wilderness. So how's that? Anyone seen Andor? Okay, nobody's seen Andor on the panel. Frankie, what have you been watching lately?
That means that I was on the Compound Media related podcast. I was on a podcast in New York City last night. I was on another show called Jason Marshall. We don't have cookies this Sunday pass.
Have you been watching movies, Frankie?
I'm watching Thor: Love and Thunder Part 2 tonight. No spoilers, please. Spoiler alert. You got to watch the movie first.
Okay. Sounds good. I was watching Andor last night, and it's a really good series, man. So, hey, we got some comments. Hello all from Christine Jensen. Winter has come to the Okanagan. Susan Payne, please repeat the radio stations. That's okay. Absolutely. CFR 88.7 FM in Prince George and CKUW 95.9 FM in Winnipeg. That's 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. You're hearing us in Prince George, and noon Monday local time Winnipeg. So okay. So that's where you will find us. Our station IDs. I do have to do that a couple times an hour. That's kind of the way it's supposed to be, right? So thanks everybody for watching online. Enjoy any amount of help we get.
2020, news. The whole planet got shut down in the end of March 2020. The whole Earth got shut down.
That was because of that Y2K thing, right?
Year 2020, during that kind of situation, the whole world is in lockdown.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the Mayan calendar when all civilization was supposed to end. That's when that was, right? I'm being funny. We've had a lot of calamities. People don't think much of it. They just keep on going every day. The last 20 years alone, it's like, wow. You know, remember Boxing Day in 2004? Just like 500,000 people got wiped off the earth by tsunami. No big, it's like everyone else just goes on like nothing happened a few years after that.
And Japan had an earthquake in March 11, 2011. Debris went across the Pacific Ocean.
It did. Yeah, we even had some of that show up in on the BC coast. Did you get any of that kind of stuff show up in Oregon there, Brian?
Someone actually died when there was a tide that came up through an inlet in Brookings, Oregon, on the southern Oregon coast. They got taken out to sea after the initial surge that came in. I'm sure it wasn't that many feet, but yeah, it did happen. They pretty much, and then some of the debris from that earthquake actually has shown up on the Oregon coast. It's actually came all the way across via the Japan current over. It took more than a decade for it to migrate.
Anything interesting?
Just metal or pieces of buildings or structures, stuff like that. It has
there was a story in BC where a motorbike had turned up on the coast in a container or something like that. A shipping container had washed ashore from the day of the tsunami, and it had a motorbike in it or something like this. And the guy restored it and sent it to the original owner somehow. So, I mean, you could look that up, but I believe that did happen. But yeah, so don't build your nuclear reactors on the side of volcanoes, and don't build your civilizations on fault zones and things like that. Sometimes it's hard to avoid, but these things are going to happen. Frankie, has there been any earthquakes this week, Frankie?
No major earthquakes this week.
Good news. Good news. So let's take a quick look at the Hurricane Center quickly, because Frankie was saying we do have a new storm picking up.
Lisa just hit Belize down in Central America, and Mark's heading towards Europe.
Frankie, is anything going to hit Cancun, Mexico? I'm going there.
That means Lisa's hitting Mexico, right parts of Mexico. It's going to the Gulf of Mexico too.
Yeah, at least she's expected to emerge over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico early Friday. So going to punch right through here. So that's there's Lisa, and then post-tropical Martin. So it was. What's the story on that?
Heading towards England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales.
Totally missed this one. Post-tropical cyclone Martin.
Yeah, and you know what? That's throwing a big lobe of air all the way up into Svalbard, where it was +2 Celsius with rain today at 79 north latitude, ahead of that tropical system.
The East Coast, and that's going on. So okay, yeah, we got and then what's this here? We got a 10% chance of cyclone formation in 48 hours southeast of Bermuda. This is one that Frankie was talking about earlier. A weak non-tropical area of low pressure located several hundred miles southeast of Bermuda is producing a few disorganized showers and thunderstorms well to the east of its center. Any tropical or subtropical development of this disturbance should be slow to occur during the next couple of days while it moves little through Friday and then turns westward over the weekend. The system is forecast to merge with a larger low pressure area developing to its southwest by the end of the weekend. Further development is not anticipated once this occurs. So, much of a story maybe there. Some active weather, but that's about it. Frankie, how can everyone find you on the internet, Frankie?
My Twitter is at Frankie McD. My Facebook is Frankie McDonald. My Instagram is Frankie McD 1984. My Twitter is at Frankie McD. My TikTok's Frankdo 1984. My Clapper's Frankdo 1984. My Twitch is Frankdo 1984. My Snapchat's Frankie McDon. And my LinkedIn's Frankie McDonald. And my YouTube channel's Dogs and Wolves.
And if you are somewhere near the Portland area, do look up Portland Weather Uncensored in the Facebook realm. Of course, you can find me on Interior Weather and Wilderness Watchers on Facebook and Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude on YouTube. Brendan Houck, they can find you on 105.7 FM Country Radio Station. Where else?
And yes, you can find me at Boom 101.1. That is not country. That is 70s, 80s, 90s music on there. And then we've got Real Country 92.7, 94.9 in the Crow's Nest Pass. You can find me on that one. And also I jump on K97 in Kelowna, or K97 in Kamloops, K96.3 in Kelowna. And sometimes I jump on Energy 106 in Winnipeg. And what else do I do? Oh, whenever somebody else needs me, I'll be there. That's what I do.
Wherever there is a cold wind blowing, he'll be there. Wherever there is snow falling, we'll be there. Wherever there is children wondering if they can go outside, we will be there. Wherever there is people wondering, should they drive on the highway tonight, we will be there. We are your meteorologists. Thank you. That's been another show. We'll see you next week on C for 88.7, CKW 95.9 FM. I'm Joey Only, Brendan Houck, Frankie McDonald, Brian Schmidt. Bye for now. Recording stopped. Recording stopped. And Frankie never even says bye. He's just gone. So
he's on to the next podcast.
Yeah, I think unless you guys have anything you want to talk about, I think I'm gonna shut down and have a toke. And I've been editing for hours because I was making these Wing Chun Kung Fu videos, right? So I've been at this computer a lot. I've been either cutting firewood or at this computer.
I want to say thank you to you and Brandon. You guys make Facebook really interesting for me every day, looking at all your stuff. You guys have very active lives, and it's nice to follow them from thousands of miles away.
Right on, Brian. I hope we get to meet you someday because I think you're just wonderful. I know I'm going to meet Brandon someday because I go to Alberta frequently. I mean, it's been a drought of a couple of years, but I spent accumulations of probably years in Alberta of my life, you know, between living there for 6 months at one point, living there for 6 months at another point, and then how many times I've been there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks playing gigs. You know, going to Alberta, it's especially for if I wasn't having a fire season and I had some money, that's definitely where I'll be heading, you know.
Look for that supercell, eh?
Yep, chasing that cell.
I should have mentioned on the show, I spaced it, didn't write it down, about how they went from the hills on fire to snow in about 14 days here, just out in the foothills outside of Portland. There was a major fire at the end of October. And then
I was kind of trying to get at that too, that you had that switch.
Yeah, and then the other day they got 10 to 15 centimeters of snow right on top of where the fire was less than 14 days ago. It's pretty cool. I'm sure that happens in Canada too.
Yeah, well, I've been on fires and it's been snowing on me. And then, after a day or two of that, and we're just freezing and getting soaking wet. And then they finally call us off. But it was probably a good week that fire season of the weather getting close to zero and raining a fair bit. And they just kept us there. And then everybody got just terribly sick because everyone was wet. I was like, literally, I was like, you know, I don't mind sleeping at 0 degrees in a tent or in a sleeping bag. That's no big deal. I mean, this fire season, we slept outside and it got below 0 at night. No big deal. But the difference was that it wasn't pouring rain and it wasn't. So now you've been wet all day, your feet wet, and you just can't get dry. And then now you're in a tent and it's sopping out. So everybody, the whole camp got sick. There's like 300 fucking sick people. It's like, okay, fire season's over now. We just thought we'd keep you here long enough. Of course, everybody, if you give them the option, will work every day they can, even if there's like no fire activity. Like the fire's dead. It's snowing on it. It's like, yeah, but we can get another day on the line. You know, so.
That's when you should be able to just sit in your truck and let them work all day, be the foreman.
Well, you know what we did in those last 2 snowy days? The one day we sat in the truck and watched a movie, because it's like it's slushing out, and then we went and demobilized in a gap in the weather, and then the next day, the day before we were asked by these ministry guys to go help them demobilize their line. It was like 3 kilometers up a fucking mountainside, and our crew boss was pissed. You know, they can mobilize their own shit. And it's like, well, I didn't care. I was like, well, we got 4 hours left of our shift today, and we're done everything we have to do. Like, but the next day, and those guys were thankful. That initial attack crew sat down at supper with me, and you know, so it was like, we got some respect. Cool, man. But Vinny didn't let that go. So the next day, we're like, again, it's starting to snow and sleet and shit on us. And so we went up to the mountainside, and we found this sort of like a pit in the ground, and we made this tiny fire. And we all kind of got in there and just laying low. And Vince is standing there watching down below everything. And at one point he goes, psst. And we all took off. You know, I actually said, helmet's off. And everyone got their helmets off and got low. Because the orange helmet's going to give you away no matter right away, right? So down there, down the hill, is those 3 initial attack guys walking along, right? Red shirts and ministry firefighters and Timmy Pierre could do a really good moose call, and there's moose tracks everywhere because this big bull running moose had been somewhere around our line. Like every day there was new tracks from him, you know, and footprints of this moose everywhere. So then Timmy Pierre does a really good moose call. So he's up there in the hill and he's doing this moose call, and then the 3 red shirts, he's like kicking ass on it, and then these 3 red shirts go like back to back to back, and they're like looking this way and like go this way, and you know, after a minute Timmy does it again, you know, and doesn't overdo it, right? Just once in a while, sparingly, right? And and then they all back off, and so they're coming to walk our line to check how we're doing or whatever, right? And instead we chased them out with animal noises and sat by got our fire going back up and sat there, and that was the last. At the end of the day, we got out and like had a big steak dinner. The locals of Smithers had bought, someone had donated a cow basically, and we had like as much steak as you could eat. And the next day we all went home. Fire season over.
Steak is good.
Yeah, I miss that kind of bourgeois food right now.
All right, gentlemen, I'm checking out. Have a good night.
Yeah, me too, guys. Love you. Thanks for coming on. It makes my week. It's like the most social thing I do every week besides be a dad.
I hear you. I got 6 and 8, buddy. You got 6 and 8 or 6 and 9 now?
7 and 10.
Oh yeah, you're ahead of me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a time zone thing.
All right, later.
Okay, well, see you guys.